Hey everybody, happy Sunday and Labor Day weekend. This is First Warn Storm Team Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich. Want to do a quick update, not so much on our weather here, but the fact that the tropics are really starting to heat up. You probably have seen me posting about potential development in the Gulf of Mexico, as well as we've got Florence out in the Atlantic. This really is kind of a precursor to what looks to be a very active period setting up, which isn't actually all that odd considering we are now entering the peak of the hurricane season. So as much as you might hear, well, the patterns really change, well, it's really just the fact that the pattern is actually going back to where it should be for this time of year. Let's go right to what's going on right now. If you look along the Gulf Coast today, we've got a little low pressure system moving over southern Louisiana and Texas. That's going to be a big soaker. Not really watching that system. The system we're watching is down here, and you can actually kind of see it right here over the southern Bahamas, north of Cuba, the Florida Straits. This is our investigation area that we're keeping an eye on, and it's going to move up here into the Gulf of Mexico. And as it gets up here, the water is like a jacuzzi. It's bath water. We are going to see the potential for this to crank up over the Gulf of Mexico. So for that reason, you've seen this big area in red shaded in by the Hurricane Center. There's a 50% chance of development here in the next 2 days, but an 80% in the 5-day pattern. So I certainly think we're going to see some development. In fact, it could actually happen sooner than that across the Florida Straits. I certainly think that's possible as that system gets up here. Now, what's interesting is if you look at the steering currents, this is the water vapor. We've got high pressure parked kind of over the southeast. And so what's happening in these systems, either they're going to move over here between the ridges, which there's one out here, or they're going to continue to travel off in this direction. So we're kind of setting up a pattern which is going to push all of these tropical disturbances, whether they're tropical depressions, storms, or eventually hurricanes, towards the U.S., at least in the short term. So something to keep a very close eye on if you're a coastal resident. But as I mentioned earlier, it's September. You should already be paying attention to that. So let's look at the potential for tropical storm development here. I'm going to put the tropical storm development. If you've never seen this product, I love this. This is the probability of tropical storm development here in the next 72 hours. So you can see the Gulf of Mexico is a hot spot. This is Florence, and then you got another system developing there. As we go into the future, notice that we've got these systems kind of moving towards the U.S. over time, and you can see the East Coast. There might be a threat long term, depending on what happens with the steering current. So again, you could see one system, possibly two, possibly three, and notice the steering either like this, maybe like this, but this is the big question mark. There's a big fork in the road here in the steering current. So it's really too early to know if there's going to be any kind of threats to the eastern U.S., but we know for sure here in the short term, we're going to see something form over the Gulf of Mexico. It's just a matter of time. And likely, this is going to be our system we'll watch. Now, if it gets a name, it's going to be called Gordon. Now, I think the big concern with these systems, I don't see anything blowing up into a huge hurricane in the near term, but the potential for flooding is going to be off the charts because this is a lot of tropical moisture heading towards the southern U.S., so something to be on guard for over the next couple of days. Of course, we've got plenty of time to watch this. This is more of a heads up. Enjoy the holiday weekend. We'll start talking more about this next week, and as I always say, stay weather aware, especially if you're in coastal sections in September and October.